Hello, 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 and welcome back to my sparkly sewing bee synopsis. And this week was Sports Week. So if you haven't watched this week's episode 5, then pop on to BBC Two. It was on BBC Two this week. So iPlayer will be having it on repeat and watch, and then come back and hear all about what I thought of this week's Sports Week. Now, I'm not exactly known for my sporting prowess, but sewing is my sport. I absolutely loved this week's episode. It had swimming shorts. We had the first ever team transformation challenge, which I loved. We had bowling shirts, a plique, free motion embroidery. There was so much in this one that was right up my street. My name's Sam and this is my channel Sew That Sparkle with Sam, and I am always behind the bees. So yes, in these little sparkly synopsis you will see some snapshots, so screenshots that I've taken from the show to let you know what I thought and follow on the kind of journey of the lovely sewing bees in episode 12. All opinions are my own and I keep everything bee positive here. So strap yourself in and let's talk about the first challenge, which is the pattern challenge. So this week's pattern challenge was swimming shorts. They know how to make it tricksy on the sewing bee, don't they? So lots of meshes and slippery swim fabrics. Lots of eyelets to put in, cords to thread through. But I really loved this challenge. I thought it was really nice. It was just a really good challenge, I think, for week 5. It's starting to really up the game to see what these sewers can do. And yeah, swimming shorts are nice and fun. And the thing that I like best about swim shorts and kind of summer wear on the whole really are the fact that you can get away with such fun fabrics. And so this week being Sports Week, there was definitely a race to the haberdashery. See what I did there? For the sewers to pick their favourite fun fabrics. And I have to say, there wasn't as many fun fabrics as I wanted there to be. But no, it was really good. So let's get on with how they all went, how the contestants went. So I'm going to start with Beth because she is on the top of my list. So Beth went for a shark's fabric, which is very similar to my very good friend Rachel from the French Seams. If you don't watch Rachel from the French Seams, please go and give her a look because she is a fantastic vlogger, does some lovely weekly vlogs, and is one of my sewing besties and is absolutely delightful, and would like to be Emma from the Sewing Bees besties. So Emma, if you're watching, pop over to the French Seams, go and be Rachel's best friend. So yeah, and Beth and Rachel had matching fabric. That's where I was going with that. However, yeah, I think Beth did really well. She really loved using the Prim Vario tool that they had. I was so jealous when they panned over to the table with all of the bits. I'll try and see if I think I've got a screenshot of all the bits and pieces they had. There was like 8 fresh, fully charged Vario tools all set up, ready to go. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I get my Vario tool out, it takes me about half an hour to get it kind of all set and get all of the dies and stuff. And theirs was all ready to go, which, yeah. And I mean, bearing in fact the time that they have, I think that's really good that it was. But I was a little bit jealous that mine isn't always set up like that. I suppose I could. I've got my sparkly studio, but it was fantastic to see. So yeah, Beth did sharks, and the only really thing that was said about Beth's was that it was all good bar the hem. But I have to say that all of the sewers, I think that, the ones that were at the bottom for a reason, but all of the rest I think did a really good job, and it was really difficult to kind of split them up. I'm so glad that I'm not a judge. There's no way that I would be able to split them up, I just thought they all did a really, really good job. Yeah, there was some hems that were maybe slightly deeper than others, but hey ho, it's sewing and it's swimwear. So yeah, I just thought I'm just so glad that I'm not a judge on the show. Quite like to host it, but definitely not judge. I'm going to pop a picture of them all so you can see, and pop up my sparkly scoreboard and let you know. So in 8th place was Adele, 7th was Minnie, Tim was 6th, Anna was 5th, 4th was Rebecca, Emma was 3rd, Beth was 2nd, and Heather was 1st. So Heather did a lovely set of swim shorts that she said that she was now going to get her husband to wear. Apparently a matching bikini somewhere. How fantastic. Yeah, and I did actually really like Heather's. I thought they were done really nicely. They were olive green and blue. Mr. Sparkles would definitely wear green and blue, so I think it was a very good choice. But as I said, they were so close all the way through. The reason that I think Adele, Minnie and Tim were the bottom of the pack were that they definitely had some kind of visual things on theirs that had gone a little bit awry. Adele was having problems with the iron. Tim had a little bit of a twisted hem. And Minnie, bless her, I think she was just struggling. I feel like Minnie was just a little bit stressed out that day. I think she was just, some days we have, we all have a bad day in the sewing room. And that's not to say that she's a bad sewer. She's an absolutely fantastic sewer, but I really felt for her. That felt like the sewing gods just didn't really feel to be on her side this week. So bless. And next it was the transformation challenge. The transformation challenge was a little bit different this week. So what they decided to do was to split them into teams of 2, which I thought was really interesting. So the challenge was when they walked in, they obviously went off and had a tea break, and when they walked back into the sewing room, there was a massive windsurfing sail. So, you're talking like a lot of fabric, a whole sail. And the challenge was to make a 2-piece outfit out of this windsurfing sail material. And it had to be a cohesive outfit. But what they did was they wanted a 2-piece, but they were going to put them in teams of 2. And they did a button pick. So they had a drawstring bag full of buttons, and then whoever picked the same colour, they were a team. So the teams were Tim and Adele, Emma and Heather, Anna and Rebecca, and Minnie and Beth, because that was just the way that the buttons dropped, which I thought was a really nice way of doing it. It's a nice way of pairing people up. And, buttons, very sewing bee. So the first outfit that I'll talk about is Tim and Adele's. So I think Tim and Adele were such a great pick for a team. It was just lovely to kind of see the energies. Adele, you can tell that Adele is a primary school teacher. She gets excited about every arts and crafts project, and she was down on the floor cutting out her triangles as quick as a flash. I thought it was fantastic. And I'm not entirely sure that they got the cohesive outfit memo, but they had so much fun. And then it ended up actually being very cohesive because they matched the triangles in it. And but again, it's really difficult when they talk about kind of these challenges because there's not a level playing field. They didn't all have exactly the same sail. So it's difficult to know whether they had the same kind of things to play with. I think one of the comments was, there's not any of this colour on the bottom, where it's this colour on the top. But obviously they didn't all have the same sail, so it's really difficult to tell. But I mean, I was totally there for Adele and Tim's. So Adele worked mainly on the bottom of the outfit, which was this kind of like godade skirt, although I did also see her putting like the flags on the top, and I think that Tim was mainly working on the kind of big fanned cape. It's not a cape would be the other way around, wouldn't it? But you get what I mean, the kind of peacock feather-esque cape thing that they put on top. So would I be wearing this to Tesco's? No. Did I love it? Absolutely yes. Then there was Rebecca and Anna's. Now, I'm going to tell you, I loved everything about this one. I loved I loved the fact that the energies were just that were not matched, but the bless them, they were trying their hardest to kind of match that. I think that Anna and Rebecca are clearly really different people, but they showed real good teamwork. You can just see it in the outfit, and it was just so lovely to see them working together and the admiration that they have for each other. Rebecca was saying how much that she kind of admires Anna and that she's such a good sewer, and then Anna was saying how lovely it was to work with Rebecca, and it was just, you know me, I like I like a good friendship, a little, kind of a little bit of camaraderie, and it was just really lovely. And then on top of all that, they made the most stunning outfit. So for this one, let me just check. Yeah, Anna did the top part and Rebecca did the trousers. Of course, Rebecca did the trousers, because there was a fun part where Rebecca was really struggling to get the trousers to kind of turn inside out. So generally when you sew right sides together, sew the seams and then turn it the other way so the seams are on the inside. So obviously that is what she'd done, and then to turn it back through, because it's such a heavy sail fabric, was really difficult. So it ended up being a two-person job. And then when they did turn it through, they stood up on their own. So it just goes to tell you how stiff that fabric was. But I just loved everything about this outfit. I'm pretty sure that my daughter, when she was younger, had a kind of TV character that looked exactly like this outfit that she loved and adored, and I could definitely see that. And then Anna did her normal quirky twists of kind of adding fixings like she did last week with the zips. This week she's done with a little kind of backpack buckle. She's very good at that. I love those kind of little hidden extras that you don't necessarily see, but the way she uses them is lovely. So yeah, really loved that one. I think it may have been my favourite. And you know me, I don't normally have favourites. And then there was Minnie and Beth. So they get a definitely Sparkle Star Award for using the most of the sail, I think. I think they might have used the whole thing. Theirs was so dramatic, so big, quite fantastic in the time. Again, they worked really well. It was lovely to see them having, again, being Sports Week, they were definitely wrestling with their machine, getting those kind of thick, heavy layers through, which is essentially a domestic sewing machine. I know they have a very good model of machine, but it's still a domestic sewing machine, and kind of getting all of those layers to go through was really a bit of a fight, and they were doing that really well together. Beth mainly focused on the bottom, and then Minnie mainly focused on the top. I thought it was fantastic the way that they communicated with each other to make sure that they had the lovely fronds, like the fan fronds from the sail, from the tops to the top, to the wings, to the skirt. It was just, that was really, really nice to see. And yeah, it was really dramatic and really impressive. And I did love the colours of it. But for me, Anna and Rebecca still kind of had the edge. And then there was, of course, Heather and Emma. They worked together, and I think they were having the funnest time just working together. And they I noticed that they were very much kind of working separately. Heather was very much doing the top. Emma was very much doing the top. Heather was very much doing the skirt. And I think that kind of told when they put it together, although it was very cohesive in the fact that they'd clearly used the same fabrics, because there was no other choice than to do that. There wasn't so much collaboration in kind of how it went together. It went together as an outfit. I thought it was fantastic. I loved Emma's creation of the bodice, and it had a little see-through piece on and kind of a very Madonna-esque kind of basque top with these crazy, not quite sure whether you would use wing windows for, but they were fabulous. And then Heather had done this really structural kind of puffball skirt, which I think was probably really difficult to sew with all of those pleats inside. But I think maybe it would have been better if they'd, because the top was panelled, to have a panelled skirt as well, or because the skirt was puffed, to have some kind of puffed feature. And that was brought up, and I kind of agreed. Although I loved it aesthetically to look at, I think it's fantastic. It's Barbie, it's Powerpuff Girls, it's all of those wonderful things that I love. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's so difficult. I'm nitpicking at this point because you kind of have to. So at the end of that challenge, the scores on the board, as it were 4th place, Emma and Heather. 3rd place was Adele and Tim. 2nd place was Minnie and Beth. And 1st place was Anna and Rebecca, which I totally agreed with. Us to the Made to Measure challenge. Now, I was really excited for this because you get to know a little bit more. I go on to the BBC site and have a little look at what's coming up, and I'd already been a little bit aware of what they were making for this Made to Measure, and I was there for it. I was excited for it. So they had to make a bowling shirt and then use free motion and applique, and they definitely had to use free motion and applique. That was part of the brief, to kind of tell a story, or kind of, you know, do something to make the bowling shirts personal to them. Now, those of you that have been to my channel for a while, and those of you that have been in my channel from the beginning, will know that this is where I started. I wasn't really much of a dressmaker at the beginning. Dressmaking is something that I've done fairly recently, but I've always loved free motion and applique, and that's kind of a free motion and applique is how I first got into using a sewing machine. And as you can see, the I Can Do It banner is one of the first things that I made, and I was so really proud of it, because yeah, I just love it. I love taking small scraps of fabric. I love the fact that you can use kind of all of the scrappy bits. You can be really creative. I love free motion embroidery. That's when you drop the feed dogs on your machine and then you use the needle like a pen, and you can kind of draw around. There's lots of different techniques. You can use a hoop, you can use stabilizers, you can do what a lot of the contestants did, which is just free motion it, I think, when you're short for time. Yeah, I saw that a lot of them had the special Janome darning foot on their machines when they were free motioning. Yeah, and I just absolutely love it. I'm gonna hopefully I'll have popped a few of my kind of free motion and applique pieces that I've made over the years. But yeah, I just absolutely love it. Now today, my plan was, I do have a top that I did free motion applique, and I will put a picture of it up here. I made it as a dupe. I made it to copy a high street branded one, and I just used the rainbow threads to kind of copy it. And I was going to wear that today. It is black, it is heavy cotton, and it has got big sleeves on it. And I thought, no, Sam, you are gonna melt like butter. So no, that's not gonna happen. So yeah, you'll have to take a picture. I've actually got my Lunar top by Helen's Closet on instead today, because we're having a solar eclipse here in the UK, which I'm going to be watching later, and yeah, and it's nice and cool. So yeah, so I do love free motion and applique. So this was definitely the challenge for me. So yeah, let's get on to the shirts. So Anna, wow. All I've got to say about Anna most weeks really is wow, Anna. You're just amazing. It's fantastic. She did really kind of classic free motion for me. She did a really clever thing, which was to keep her shirt nice and simple. The red and the black background. Black is great to free motion on, because all of your other applique fabrics that you put on really pop, and then you can just stick with black thread for your free motion, which stands out really nicely, which gives you really good definition. It means you just stick to one colour, so you can have one colour in your thread, one colour in your bobbin, and Bob's your uncle, you're done. You can just, you know, thread lots and lots of black bobbins in advance. And I really love the detail that she got. So she loves food. Her and her mum share the love of food, a passion for eating. So she did a kind of Italian tabletop scene with a bowl of pasta, and the spaghetti was made of yarn. She had a bottle of olive oil, and even the way that she'd done the label, it was rustic and beautiful. A little lemon, I think there might have been a bottle of wine, not quite sure, can't remember, and a pepper grinder. I think the way that she'd made the wood grain on the pepper grinder, genius. And then this was the real genius. Now, it was beautiful, but this was the real genius for me. She'd made the spaghetti out of yarn, and then she'd made a piece of spaghetti yarn kind of slither, is that what spaghetti does? Around to the front, and then the yarn made the name. One of the things that they had to do for the brief was have a name on the front, and because I think that the judges wanted to see how that they did lettering with free motion. And and so she had a yarn spaghetti Anna, which is just amazing. I think I might copy that at some point. I just think it was amazing. Yeah, I loved Anna's. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Rebecca. Oh, Rebecca, she's such a sweetie. She really is. And of course she did Badger Patrol. I really need to find out more about Badger Patrol. I do, when I watch the show, I always watch it 3 times, and I tried to pay a little bit more attention about what Badger Patrol is, but I don't know whether they went into that much detail. But I absolutely loved the shirt, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was something to do with kind of camping out, and I don't know whether Badgers is a group. I'm not sure. It's new on me if it is, but I loved the fact that she got the character of the badger. Esme said a very strange thing about it looking like a panda. It didn't look like a panda. It looked like a badger. I think it was the mask. Just because it's black and white doesn't mean it's either a zebra, a panda, or a badger. It looked like a badger. The thing that I really loved about Rebecca's was that she did like the little ribbon flag and then the writing on top of badgers, and I thought that was done really well. And actually that zigzag writing via free motion is actually really difficult to do well. I think she did a really good job of that. And also getting facial expressions through free motion, it's something that I've played with a little bit, is difficult to do. And her badger just looked gorgeous and friendly and lovely and just like Rebecca. So I really loved that one. That was a lovely one. Now, then there was Beth. So I'm going to try and get through Beth without getting too emotional. Because Beth was kind of a homage to her family pet, Scylla, who's a red setter. And she absolutely did it justice. We found out on the show that Scylla had passed away very, very recently. And it was lovely. Sophie gave Beth a little hug, because it's very hard, isn't it, when you lose a family pet? My heart goes out. But it was just lovely. And Beth did what I think is perhaps a more traditional kind of applique and free motion and I loved the way that she did the mix between the two. I loved like Scylla's little mat and the way it was made 3D, and then she did put the weights, the dumbbells. So the idea is that it was weightlifting with Scylla. So, Beth's love of weights and the gym and her love of her pet, it's just gorgeous. And who doesn't love to see a weightlifting red setter, it was darling. It was gorgeous. And I also loved the way that she used like really delicate, they were like Liberty-esque fabrics on like heavy dumbbell weights. And there was something about the juxtaposition of that to me, which was just beautiful. And then the Scylla herself was done in lots of different colours. So when I talked about Anna's being really simple and rustic, Beth went to town. She obviously kept changing all of the thread colours, which must have taken, you know, a bit of time, because changing your machine in between free motion, setting everything up. And yeah, I did think that that was really, really beautifully done. Yeah, I love that one. And yeah, I think it was a hard choice for the judges this week because they all did really, really well. So let's talk about Heather. Heather's made me giggle because she made a turtle pocket that her model kept putting his finger in. It was just a bit weird. Little turtle pocket. I mean, I think you might be able to get a pen in there, nothing else. So maybe for bowling, I don't know. What do you need to put in your pockets for bowling? Maybe a pen for your score sheet. But yeah, absolutely adorable. And then on the back, she had a shark. And well, apparently Heather loves to scuba dive, so that was something that we found out about her, which was lovely. So she, with the animals, so the sea creatures on the back, what she did is she did a very basic applique of the animals, and then she satin stitched all the way around the outside, which can be really effective. It's like, that's kind of what I did up here on my banner. And then she had a go at the lettering, and she just kind of did the outside of the lettering. And Patrick did say it didn't show up, it wasn't very clear. And I have to agree. I think it would have been better for her to do something like this and to use the heat and bond to cut the letters out and then sew them on. Saying that, when I did that, it took absolutely ages. So would she have had time to do that in the show? Probably not. It would have stood out more. But would she have had time? Probably not. But yeah, I loved Heather's. I thought it was very her, very nice, very lovely. So then we're on to Emma's. So Emma's, she talked about a trip that she took a few years ago that she absolutely loved. And she went paragliding. So quite a lot of my family love a bit of paragliding, but like Emma, you know, once you have children, you have to think about your safety. So yeah, you kind of think, oh, can I do those kind of wild things anymore? And I think, but yeah, it was lovely that Emma got to kind of pop it on a shirt. So she put, I thought the writing on the back was hilarious. She put "still alive." I sometimes think that about my life. Some of the things that I'm still alive, I'm still here. So I thought that was lovely. And then she put the little kind of paragliders in kind of a bit of a perspective. I love the colours. I love the fact that she did a really, really colourful shirt, so that from the back, the way that she did the cuffs and the kind of bottom hem, all of the colours that you saw on the back, you know, were really clear. It is a made to measure, and it was a little tight, and that comment was picked up. And actually, if it had have been a little looser, you know, because I think bowling shirts are meant to be worn much looser over the body, then you would have got a better kind of, you know, better view of the picture. But it was lovely, it was beautiful. I loved what Emma did. And then on to Tim. So Tim's inspiration was his gym group. He obviously does an early bird gym group. So he had kind of like a sun ray effect. I'm gonna say it, like, I'm always behind the bees, as you always know. But I have to say, like, I wasn't a big fan of Tim's colour scheme. Now, I know that he used the like bits and pieces from his friend's gym kit, so obviously he was limited. But actually, the gym kit part of it, the actual rays that he appliqued on, was the best colours. It was actually the colours that he chose for the background of the shirt. I didn't kind of make them sing as much as perhaps if he'd have used a black background or a darker blue or something like that, and would have made the sun more of a kind of sunrise. But maybe that was just me being, you know, that's perhaps what I would have done. Yeah, and then I have to say, the amount of work that Tim put in, he did all of the lettering, he did a kind of free motion fist and a dumbbell. But when you went up close in the judging, it was clear that Tim had done, excuse me, that Tim had done this in quite a hurry, which he would have had to have done to get that done in the time. And yeah, and he also said he would have wanted to get more rays on. And I think it needed that. It didn't have quite as much wow as some of the others. And then there was Minnie. Oh, I had a little tear for Minnie last night. When I was watching it the first time round, I was all on my own last night. Normally got people with me. I'm quite glad that I was all on my own because I got a bit emotional. Bless her. Minnie got really upset. I think that what we don't realise that the sewers put them through, they put their whole heart and soul into every single one of these things that they do. And Minnie was doing hers for her son. It was a scene with her son playing ice hockey. It was a beautiful concept. And you know what, Minnie? You did an absolutely fantastic job. I thought it was beautiful. You know, forget about the boo-boo, as Patrick put it. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I think your colour choices were amazing. I thought the way that you got the shape of your son in action was amazing. You know, this is fabric and thread, and you've kind of really given us the image of him moving around. I just thought it was fantastic. The way that you popped the little laces, used his boot laces to get the effect of the writing. Again, you know, that's really hard to do, and I thought it was fabulous. However, you know, the elephant in the room, we do have to address it. What Minnie had used is she'd used some like heat and bond paper with the glue, with the sticky stuff on. Now, the idea of that is that you use that to put your fabric on, and then you cut out the shapes and then you stick it on. I think what Minnie wanted to use was something that was just going to kind of stick on temporarily. So she could have done that with some spray or with some stitch and tear or that kind of thing. And, you know, again, if this is not the thing that you do all of the time, you're not to know that. And should she have practiced? She has times to practice, maybe. She's got children at home. She's a busy lady. But to be honest, even with the glue boo-boo, I still think it was a magnificent piece. And the fact that the kind of glue was there made it look a little bit like ice. So they did point that out on the show last night. So yeah, well done, Minnie. You did really good. And yeah, and please don't cry, because it made me feel really emotional. And then that brings me to Adele's. So they did talk at this point about Adele being in the relegation zone, and I was really worried for Adele. I mean, I didn't necessarily agree that she was in the relegation zone, but you know, when they say it, I started getting really, really worried. And she absolutely nailed this challenge. I thought it was fantastic. Her story was lovely. It was all about Blackburn Rovers, with the roses and the trophies and the white and blue, and the story that she would go and wear it in the pub with her dad on match days. It was amazing. And actually, if you go in really close into the roses and the trophies, which I did last night, she did some really good, super good free motion skills. She had even the little star on top of the trophy, and yeah, and that's actually really, really quite difficult to do, and I thought she'd done really, really well. I absolutely loved Adele's, and again, you know, it was just so striking the way that she matched up on her shirt, the white and the blue. And they didn't really talk about this, but she'd done a really good job on her shirt. Her colours matched up absolutely beautifully. Nice, sharp lines, which is always difficult to do when you've got the shirt to make, and you've got to make this fantastic feature on the back and write your names on the front. So I thought she did really, really well. Really loved Adele's. So that brought us to the end of the show, and they had to make that good decision, happy decision of who was Garment of the Week, which was Anna, and I wholeheartedly agree. I thought Anna did really, really well. I think she did well throughout the whole of the episode, and particularly well in the Made to Measure. And going home was Tim. which was sad. Sadly, somebody has to leave every week, and this week it was Tim. So yeah, I just want to say thank you so much, Tim. It has been wonderful following your journey on series 12 of the Sewing Bee. I have enjoyed all of your wild and wacky makes. I particularly enjoyed the way that you kind of embraced dressing for fun and dopamine hits. I just thought it was wonderful, and yeah, and good luck and best of luck to whatever you do in the future, and I hope to see you in the sewing scene sometime soon. So yeah, you definitely stitch your best, and I'm sending you a massive shower of sparkle from behind the bees. So then, lovely ones, should we find out what the lovely baby Sparkles thought of this week's episode?
Hi everyone, Baby Sparkles here for another recap of the Sewing Bee week. This week was Sports Week, and I'm not particularly a sporty person, like massively, like I'm into sports, but I definitely don't do it anymore. Used to as a kid. But something about this week, I think, is probably one of my favourite weeks of Sewing Bee there has been. I like it when it starts to get smaller and there are less sewers because you can focus more on each sewer. And this week just felt funny, and like some of the stuff they were doing was really original. I enjoyed Pattern Challenge, Transformation Challenge, and the Made to Measure all fairly equally. I thought Anna's Made to Measure, she absolutely killed it again. I thought it was really interesting that in the Transformation Challenge, when they were put into pairs, again, with Anna and Rebecca, they're sort of like two-piece, kind of almost look like dungarees made out of that windsurfing thing. I'm not really sure what it is. But really, really cool, really, really good. But yeah, loved a lot of the made to measures. I really like a bowling shirt, so I really liked those designs. I did think Anna's was a step above, but I thought they were all quite good. Some of them looked good, but they weren't bowling shirts for me. That was my big thing. And one of my favourite judge to contestant interaction that there's ever been is during the pattern challenge, Rebecca being asked by Patrick how she feels about it, and she's like, I'm a lesbian, I don't know anything about men. Do they like dinosaurs? And Patrick going, yeah, they like dinosaurs, because it is true. Men do like dinosaurs. But that's me, Baby Sparkles. Have a lovely week.
And then there were 7. We have a battle of the ladies. 7 sewers remain: Heather, Beth, Emma, Rebecca, Anna, Minnie and Adele. Who is going to make it to the final? Because at this point, I genuinely don't know. So, what was your favourite bowling shirt? How would you have felt about the team challenge? And most importantly, should I make myself a So Let Sparkle bowling shirt? Please say yes. Please say yes. Please say yes. For now.
Don't forget to sparkle.